Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Esther, the 8th chapter. Last time we dealt with the 7th chapter. We went into the fate of Haman, right, for trying to destroy and exterminate the Jews. The Lord turned it on him to where he was put to death, right? He was hung on the same gallows that he intended to hang Mordecai on. Okay, so going into chapter 8, we see the reversal of that letter, the letters that were sent out by Haman. In other words, like the execution letters, right? We see now a reversal of that. So let's go into it, right? This is the book of Esther, chapter 8, verse 1. On that day did King Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. So the affairs, probably like the property, all the things that were bestowed upon Haman were now transferred to Esther. And Mordecai, right, was now it was told to the king that, oh, this was actually Esther's cousin, right? So now it's like, oh, you guys are, not only did he save the king's life, but I didn't know that he was a close relative. Verse 2, and the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And that ring was a representation of authority, because when any decree or message or announcement will go out, it would be stamped, right, or authorized by the king's ring, or sealed, you could say. And so if you had that, then you basically had that power or that authority to do things in the king's name. It says here, and Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So basically over the affairs, he put him in his position. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device, i.e. his plans that he had devised against the Jews. Because remember, at this point, Haman was put to death for plotting, but the letters had already been sent out throughout the province. So coming a couple months from here, execution day would still be in effect. So Esther is begging the king to reverse that. Verse 4, then the king held out the golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, right? Because once again, that scepter represented life. If the king didn't hold it out to you, you would be put to death. Verse 5, and said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces. And mind you, this Ahasuerus was a Persian, right? So today you would say is like a modern day Iranian. Anyway, so she's begging for another decree to be made, basically, that would counteract that first one to save the lives of the Jews or the Israelites here throughout in the different provinces. For how can I endure to see evil, or to see the evil that shall come upon or onto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you. So you have the leeway, you have the authority, write whatever you think is good concerning the Jews in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. So send that message out, in my name. So you have the power, the authority, seal it, and send it. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, on the 23rd day, the 23rd day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants, and the deputies, and rulers of the provinces, which are from India unto Ethiopia. So it was a pretty large empire. 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. So this is why they had to bring in those scribes. So for all the different languages that were spoken in the different provinces, the scribes were listening to what Mordecai was saying, and then they were writing it in the respective languages so that it could be sent out. And at this point in time, it wasn't like they had printers, right? You just make photocopies. Things were handwritten. That's where you get the term manuscript from, right? Manu, or which goes back to manus, which is hand, and then the script goes back to script or writing. So handwritten. Verse 10, and he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by posts on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. And these posts were messengers that would send the message out. See, today you have email. Back then you didn't have email, right? You had mule mail or camel mail or horse mail, which is basically, today the mails are sent electronically. Back then people needed to actually send them physically. Okay. Wherein the king granted the Jews, so in the name of the king, the Jews were granted, which were in every city, to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. So this was what was written in the letter, which we're gonna actually read the details of it here in the editions of Esther chapter 16. However, you notice the letter wasn't more so just like okay, we know we sent out the first message, or there was a first letter sent by the king to you to exterminate the Jews. Don't do that anymore. Because as we read up above, as the king said, what was written and sealed in his name could not be reversed. So what Mordecai did was he had another one, right? Another letter that was sent out that would counteract it. So it wasn't like a direct reversal, but it was more like, okay, well, even if there are people that do want to carry out the instructions of that first letter, you now have the ability to fight back and defend yourselves if any of them dare to actually kill you or assault you. So it's not like it's going to be a crime for you to kill them if they try to harm you, because according to this decree, you have permission to do so and to take their spoils. Verse 12, upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. So that was the day that this would go down. Now I'm going to pause here and jump to the editions of Esther so we can read the details of what was actually in the letter that was written. So this is additions to Esther chapter 16. The great King Artaxerxes, so you notice he's called Artaxerxes in here, Ahasuerus in the other version, but still the same person. On to the princes and governors of 127 provinces, from India unto Ethiopia, and unto all our faithful subjects, greeting. Many, the more often they are honored with the great bounty of their gracious princes, the more proud they are waxen. He's talking here about Haman. He said basically you have some people who, the more you honor them, right, the more you exalt them, the more proud they become. And endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance, do take in hand to practice also against those that do them good. So basically, once they become proud, once again he's referring to Haman here. Not only do they want to hurt the subjects of the kingdom, but not being able to, how do you say, um, be controlled, right? Having all this power, they want to go as far as to hurt even those that do good to them. Verse 4, and take not only thankfulness away from among men, but also lift it up with the glorious words of lewd persons that were never good, they think to escape the justice of God. So not only do they, like it says, take away thankfulness, but they're egged on, okay, by the words of lewd persons. One example is Haman and his friends and his wife, okay, as they egged him on in his devices. It says that that were never good, they think to escape the justice of God, that seeth all things and hateth evil. Right, and obviously nobody can escape the justice of God. Oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs hath caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and hath enwrapped them in remediless calamities. So, as it says, oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs. So, by certain people that you put in a position, right, that you trust them to in a high position to keep order and to manage your affairs, they use fair speeches, right, smooth words, and cause those that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, like what Haman tried to do here, because by his smooth speaking and his forked tongue, he convinced the king to authorize this decree to put to death the Jews, which, as it says, was innocent blood, and hath enwrapped them, right, those that are in authority, in remediless calamities. So they influence them, you know, they lead these figures of power into or down the wrong path. And really, you see that very, very like a lot more when you have cases of a tutor, right, and say like a tutor or an advisor, and especially when they start to tutor a prince who is next to become king. Okay, that is where you really see this heavily, although it's not exclusive to just that, right? But there they really have that grasp upon them. So in actuality, especially if this advisor is wicked, he's the one really running the kingdom, because he's able to turn the actual king into a puppet because of the bond that he has created with them since the king was just a child. Verse 6, beguiling with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition the innocency and goodness of princes. See, so they use their deceitful words to beguile these princes or these people in power and lead them down the wrong path. Now ye may see this, as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories, as ye may, if ye search what hath been wickedly done of late, through the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthily placed in authority. So what Mordecai is saying here in this letter is that an example of what I just said to you, right? You don't need to look all the way back, as it says, not so much by ancient histories. You don't even need to look too far back to see an example of what I just described to you. If you just look recently, right, there was a case or an example here of this of what we just spoke of here, right? As it says, late through the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthily placed in authority. And we must take care of them and we must take care for the time to come, that our kingdom may be quiet and peaceable for all men, both by changing our purposes and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. See, so like it says, in order to achieve peace, right, we have to change our purposes. In this case, they were purposed to harm the Jews. Okay, and as it says, always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. So not just, taking things just because, right? This guy said, oh, these guys, the Jews are troublemakers, we got to exterminate them. Meanwhile, you've been living with them for X amount of years, and, you work with them, they're good work, all these kinds of things. Because remember, when that decree was first sent out, it says that the city was in confusion. Everybody was like, wait, why? What the hell was going on? Though you still had some people that were with it. Verse 10, for Ammon, a Macedonian. And this right here is a major piece here, which is why another reason, or one of the many reasons why they extracted these portions, okay, of the Apocrypha from the original 1611 King James Bible. Because if you buy or purchase an original 1611 King James Bible, the additions to Esther will be included in there. But if you notice, the more modern versions don't have that in there. And if you look in here, you notice that it mentions here that Ammon was a Macedonian. And we know that the Macedonians, right, they go back to the Greeks. Okay, but this isn't referring to the ancient Greeks, the original Greeks, which were Japhites. Okay, we're talking about here the Edomite Greeks. So this allows you to trace back that lineage to find out, oh wow, okay, so the Macedonians, right, which were the Greeks, are tied to Amalek, okay, or the Edomites, as we read of in Esther 8, because it mentions that Haman was the son of Agag, right, which was an Amalekite, when you go back into the history. But here it also mentions that he was a Macedonian. So now there's that link between the Macedonians, or the Greeks, and the Amalekites. Anyway, it says here the son, and we've done lessons on that, right? Brothers have done different lessons that actually go more in depth and do the full link, which you can look up, and find. But continuing, it says the son of Amadatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood. See, so he wasn't a Persian by nationality. He was an Edomite, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us. Right, so he, the last thing he wanted was the benefit of the Jews. Had so far forth obtained the favor that we shewed toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all the next person unto the king. When it says here he was called our father, it doesn't mean literally. What it means is he was held in high regard, being that he was the next, or the second in command after the king. That's what Mordecai is saying here. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life. So being in this position, it wasn't good enough for him. He didn't live up to the right reputation. Instead, he wanted to take away the kingdom and also the life of the Jews. Verse 13, having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, as well as of Mordecai, who saved our life, and continually procured our good, as also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom with their whole nation. So as it says, having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, right? This was Haman. So through his secret plans, he really wanted to subvert and take the kingdom. And in the process, he wanted to destroy Mordecai, right? And Esther and all the Jews, who were actually, as it says here, partakers in the kingdom. It says here, for by these men, or by these means, he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians. But we find that the Jews, whom this wicked wretch hath delivered to utter destruction, are no evildoers, but live by most just laws. and that they be children of the Most High and Most Mighty, living God, who hath ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. So these people actually aren't as wicked as Haman says. In fact, these are actually people that follow just laws, and they are the children of the living God, the same God that set this kingdom up nicely for us. And that's also in the book of Daniel, right? That the Most High is the one that ruleth in the kingdom of men and setteth up over it, whom he will. Roughly paraphrasing, wherefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the letters sent unto you by Aman the son of Amadatha. For he that was the worker of these things is hanged at the gates of Susa with all his family. So not only was Haman hung, but his family as well. God who ruleth all things, speedily rendering vengeance to him according to his deserts. So according to his plans and his desires, the Most High brought that destruction upon him. So for your own good, you better not follow in his footsteps. Therefore, ye shall publish the copy of this letter in all places, that the Jews may freely live after their own laws. And ye shall aid them, that even the same day, being the 13th day of the 12th month Adar, they may be avenged on them, who in the time of their affliction shall set upon them. So anybody that tries to, come upon them, right? You're gonna basically aid the Jews, as it says, that they may be avenged upon them, so that no harm comes to them. For Almighty God hath turned to joy unto them the day wherein the chosen people should have perished. And remember, this was all in Mordecai's vision that he received. Ye shall therefore among your solemn feasts keep it an high day with all feasting. And now you're getting the history of the feast, or the holy day of Purim, okay, and where that comes from and how that came about. Verse 23, that both now and hereafter there may be safety to us and the well-affected Persians, but to those which do conspire against us a memorial of destruction. Therefore every city and country whatsoever which shall not do according to these things shall be destroyed without mercy, with fire and sword, and shall be made not only unpassable for men, but also most hateful to wild beasts and fowls forever. So this is the details of the letter that was sent. Basically, Haman's wicked ass tried to plot against us, right? But it didn't work out. The Most High turned it around. So do not execute the things he wrote in those letters, but rather, aid the Jews and wherever you are, and allow them to serve the Most High how they please. But if there's anybody that's still on the side of Haman and wants to go out, carry out this plan, they're going to be destroyed without mercy. So now that we've gone into details, coming back to Esther chapter 8, verse 13. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. See, so if anybody try to come with it, they had the leeway, as long also with the aid, okay, of those that would adhere to this letter that was given, or this commandment, to defend themselves. Verse 14, so the posts that rode, right, the messengers that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened, and passed on by the king's commandment. And the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. So Mordecai was raised up. You can see he was out there styling and profiling. Anyway, verse 16, it says, the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Now, this is an important part to clarify here, right? This is, of course, the letter was given out. There was a great rejoicing. But here, when it says that many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them, it doesn't mean that the people of the land became literal Jews. When you go into the word here, as it says, many of the people of the land became Jews, right? You have here Yahad, as they have it there. But it says here, it says it's a denominative from a form corresponding to Yahawada, which is Jew or Judah. Now it says here to become a Jew in fact or in fraud, become Judaized. So when it says here that many of them became Jews, what it means is they became Judaized, if that's, if I'm using that word correctly, or in other words, they start to follow or practice the ways, of the Jews, because you cannot become a literal Jew, right? You have what they call practicing Jew, which is one that follows the ways and customs of the Jews. But to be a Jew means you're of the tribe of Judah, really. And if you're of the tribe of Judah, then that's a bloodline. You have to be born as that nation or in that tribe. Okay, so here the people of the land, whether they were Ethiopians or whatever province they were in, started to follow the ways or the customs, of the Jews, but not that they actually became literal Israelites, because that's not possible. It's kind of like saying Barack Obama, once went to China one time and he became Chinese, right? That doesn't work that way. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the book of Esther, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.